Well, it's time now for a look at the day's top business news, starting with the decision by Fiat Chrysler to withdraw its proposal to merge with French carmaker Renault. France 24 business editor Brian Quinn is here with the latest. Brian.
Well, Haxie, Fiat Chrysler is blaming French politics for that plan's collapse following a marathon meeting of Renault's board Wednesday night. The €33 billion merger would have created the world's second largest car maker by volume. The French government owns 15% of Renault. It had insisted that no French jobs be lost and that a special dividend be paid to Renault shareholders. Complicating the situation, Renault's alliance with Japanese car maker Nissan. Their representatives on Renault's board had planned to abstain from voting on the merger. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire says the French government had reached agreement on 3 of its 4 conditions, the last being Nissan's explicit support. His request, that's Bruno Le Maire's request, to postpone a final vote until after his visit to Japan this weekend was apparently the final straw for Fiat there. Next, Donald Trump remains on course to levy tariffs on all Mexican imports to the U.S. That's after a fresh round of talks on Wednesday failed to yield an agreement between the two countries. Trump is insisting Mexico do more to stem the flow of migrants across the U.S.-Mexico border. Despite the setback, Mexico's foreign minister says he's still optimistic a deal will eventually be reached. Andrew Hillier has the story.
The delegation came out of its talks in Washington empty-handed. But despite the lack of an agreement, Mexico's foreign minister says he's hopeful a deal can be reached.
We have the opportunity to share our point of view, explain why the Mexican position is like that we are following in regarding this issue, and tomorrow we are going to follow the talks.
With just days to go until the US follows through on its threat to impose 5% tariffs on Mexican goods, concerns are growing on both sides of the border. The US auto industry is particularly worried. Cars, as well as machinery, fuel and plastics regularly cross the border in a complex supply chain. In all, the US imports more than $250 billion worth of goods, including $60 billion of car parts. But that argument has done little to convince Donald Trump. He insists that Mexico must do more to crack down on migrants crossing the border.
The people that are coming in unchecked, they're swamping up, they're coming up by the millions. Mexico can stop it, they have to stop it. Otherwise, we just won't be able to do business. It's a very simple thing.
But Mexico could already be toughening its stance. On Wednesday, hundreds of Mexican police near the Guatemalan border stopped some 1,000 Central American migrants from heading north to the US. Some resisted and were tackled to the ground. But the rest boarded buses and were taken to a local immigration center. It's not clear if they'll be allowed to carry on their journey north.
And checking in on the markets now, Asian indexes in the red as investors look ahead to an expected interest rate cut from the U.S. Federal Reserve later this year, along with a move to boost lending by the European Central Bank later today. Nissan shares down nearly 1% in Tokyo on that latest Fiat Renault merger news. The Nikkei closing just under the flat line. Chinese indexes down as well. Hong Kong's Hang Seng just under the flat line. The Shanghai Composite off 0.9%. Caspian Seoul is closed for a holiday. Next, International Monetary Fund Director Christine Lagarde has a message for the G20. First, do no harm. Finance ministers and central bankers from the world's top 20 economies meeting in Fukuoka, Japan this weekend. They'll be looking at issues like how best to tax multinational digital giants, including Google and Facebook. But they're also facing increasing economic headwinds as the effects of trade conflicts, crucially between the U.S. and China, start to be felt in the global economy. Here's Lagarde.
There is a market impact and there are consequences associated with these tariff tensions and concern about particular segment of the business, whether it's car manufacturing or whether it is farming products. And then you have the confidence impact, which is clearly likely to affect investment decisions that will have a longer-term impact on the economy.
And finally, for business, putting animal welfare over profit. Norway's parliament is set to pass legislation this month banning fur farms. The country has roughly 200 such farms where thousands of minks are kept inside small wire cages before being slaughtered for their coats. Under the new law, existing fur farms will have to be dismantled by 2025. Norway joins a growing list of countries, including the UK and the Netherlands, that have banned the practice. The government has set aside about 51 million euros to compensate farmers and help them transition to other sources of income. One Liberal Party MP has suggested replacing the fur farms with medical marijuana farms. Sounds like a win-win to me, Haxie. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. Brian Quinn with The Business. Thank you very much indeed.